Take a look at this picture. Why is each person thinking what they're thinking? Here's a surprise. That's not what they're thinking. The man is thinking, the woman is thinking, what a loser. And she is thinking that the man is thinking, weird smile. So both of them are completely wrong. And both of them are probably going to miss out on a friendship that they could have had. Try this. What am I thinking right now? You don't know, right? Because you can't read minds. Although most of us seem to think that we can. Don't trust your thoughts about what other people think or believe. There's nothing wrong with your thinking, but those thoughts are not the product of actual thinking. Your brain is basically guessing without consulting the conscious mind, and then calling those guesses reality. You don't have to be Dr. Strange to alter reality. I'll show you how to do it right here. Coming up in this video, you'll learn why your brain automatically invents stories about what other people are thinking and believing, and why clever, creative people tend to fall into this trap even more than normal, and how to stop mind reading and replace assumptions with a new reality that makes you magnetic and powerful. Before we get into why we make so many assumptions, it's important to realize just how much havoc this havoc plays with our lives. We think we know what other people are thinking, and then we assume that they know what we're thinking, so we don't have to say what we want. They should know what we want because they know us so well, right? If they don't do what we want, then we feel hurt and we think, how could you do that? How could you be so insensitive? A whole drama happens when we make these assumptions, and then we pile on more assumptions on top of them, and it just gets worse and worse. It's the way the mind works, especially the creative mind. We have this need to justify everything, to explain everything and understand everything, because it makes us feel safe. In life or death situations, we don't have the luxury of conscious thought. The brain has to make guesses and act quickly. The whole caveman facing the lion scenario we always hear about. The penalty for negative guessing is minimal. If you run and there was no lion, who cares? Better that than to not run when there is a lion. But this need to feel physically safe is just not really justified in most of our daily lives now. We have millions of questions that we need answers to because those questions cannot be figured out by thinking. And it's not important if the answer is correct, as long as there is an answer. That makes us feel safe. This is why we make assumptions. People just hate not knowing. If somebody tells you something, you make an assumption about it. And if they don't tell you something, you make an assumption about that. You make assumptions to fulfill your need to know. So you don't even need to communicate, really. Even when we hear things that we don't understand, which happens all the time, we make assumptions about what it means, and then we believe those assumptions. We make all these assumptions because we don't have the courage or the energy or whatever it takes to actually ask the questions. It feels good because we're so sure of all these things that we know, and we forget that we just kind of made them all up. In his book, Thinking Fast and Slow, Daniel Kahneman describes the two thinking systems as System 1, which is fast, instinctive, and easy, and System 2, which is sort of slow and more deliberate and takes more effort. Big surprise, we tend to use System 1, the fast and easy one, because it's fast and easy. Reality is slow and expensive to process. Guessing is fast and efficient. So your brain predicts first, and then it checks later, which means most of the time, your brain isn't sensing reality. It's guessing and calling it reality. That's not a character flaw, it's a design flaw. And here's something curious. We also think people are thinking about us way more than they actually are. There's a famous psychology experiment at Cornell where they get a student to walk into a classroom, and they have to wear this Barry Manilow t-shirt, big picture of Barry Manilow's face. And the student has to go in there and interrupt the class, interrupt the teacher, and give them a note or something, and then come back out. And the student is sure that everybody saw them and everybody thinks that they're some kind of an idiot because they're wearing this big Barry Manilow t-shirt. But when they actually quizzed the classroom, most of them didn't even notice a student or what they were wearing. Somebody came in? What? Psychologists call this the spotlight effect. We feel like we're on stage, like everyone's watching, judging, analyzing every word we say. But really, most people are just busy worrying about themselves. They're not thinking about your awkward sentence from last Tuesday. They're trying to remember if they left the stove on or what people are thinking about them. And if you're sensitive or creative, this is even harder because you've got a strong imagination. strong empathy. You can feel what other people might feel. And you can simulate whole emotional movies in your head. You can walk around having this imaginary conversation and you get yourself all worked up. Your boundary's a little thinner. So when you assume someone's thinking, it doesn't feel like a guess. It feels like evidence. It feels real. At my old job, one of my cube mates was complaining that another person had just yelled at them. And I said, "Oh, really? I didn't hear anything." "Well, I mean, she didn't yell at me, but I could tell that she was yelling at me." I would have laughed if I weren't so busy doing that myself. A good imagination is a great thing, but it can create some very convincing fiction. Your brain screensaver is basically fan fiction about your life. And most of it is dramatic, and depending on how you're doing at the time, it may tend to be kind of negative. So you sit there rehearsing an argument that never happened. And this has a real cost. There's a great quote falsely attributed to Mark Twain. It goes, "I remember the old man who said he had a great many troubles in his life, the worst of which never happened." So what can you do about this? I said to stop believing everything you think, but what I really mean is to stop believing before thinking. If you have time in the moment, you can avoid taking something personally long enough to actually think. And usually you can pull this off. First, realize that you're actually doing this. By the time you notice, you've already made one guess. Now, the trick is just to make 2 more guesses. And do it so you end up with 3 guesses. 1 positive, 1 negative, and 1 kind of neutral. She's mad at me. Oh, wait, let me do 2 more guesses. Maybe she's mad about something else. Maybe she's nervous about some big presentation coming up. When you make 3 predictions, it's a little easier to see that you're actually just making up guesses. And you actually have no idea what they're thinking. So you can call yourself out. There is one way to know with reasonable certainty what other people are thinking. Are you ready for this? You have to ask them, like, what's troubling you? Simple and clear, but you have to do it in a sort of seeking information mode, not condemning, not what the hell's wrong with you? That is not seeking information. Like, just checking I understood. Is that what you meant? It's no mind reading, just gathering information. Mind reading is insecurity pretending to be certainty. But curiosity exudes confidence. It improves your quality of life and it makes you look good. People don't tell you what they're thinking because they think you should already know. If you actually do know, you look like a superstar. And you can do that for anything, by the way, not just what other people think. What you hear in the news, what other people say, anything. Get a little more curious and ask some questions. Look at some other sources. You're making up your own reality. Why not make up one where things are better? I'd like to walk you through an experience to help these ideas sink in. If you've done this with me before, this will be easy. Just follow my instructions and don't try too hard. If you're driving or doing something that needs concentration, just pause the video and wait for a time when you have a moment to actually focus on this. So if you're ready, get comfortable, separate your hands, and allow yourself to relax. In a moment, I'd like you to breathe with me. As we breathe in, keep your eyes open. As you breathe out, let your eyes close. Breathe in, eyes open. Breathe out, eyes closed. Now let your breathing take care of itself. And allow yourself to drift down deeper and deeper into relaxation. Sinking deeper into this feeling each time you exhale. That's right. Because the unconscious mind is interesting to observe as you drift down into that trance where those unconscious thoughts, images, and ideas just flash through the mind so rapidly, like schools of fish darting through the mind so rapidly. Startling as they suddenly appear in their strange forms and shapes and then disappear, replaced by others. Some schools of thought are about the past, others about the present or even the future. wondering what might happen then, what might come of what's going on, like frightened fortune tellers, always seeing the end of the world written in the tea leaves and palm prints. All these signs everywhere of doom and disaster. And what to make of the fact that if you look at the horoscopes in the paper, they always suggest wealth and prosperity, potentials at every turn, while the doomsayers walk the streets with hand-printed signs announcing the end of the world. Those who get paid and paid attention to have a different point of view, but at least their messages are easier to see. Not like subliminal images or words that could be hidden in videos or movies, telling us to be afraid of this or that, reminding us to be concerned that something awful is about to happen, something awful or terrible, like the shape of a hawk circling above, a shape that scares all birds from the time they're born. They don't have to learn to be afraid. Nature does that for them, to protect them from real danger. Some buildings have a cutout of that shape, pasted on large windows to keep birds from flying into the windows and hurting themselves. And that shape scares them away, and it cannot be unlearned. But some things can be unlearned. We know you won't fall off the edge of the world when you sail out to sea. And we know that tomatoes are not poisonous, that toads can't create warts, or that just believing we can fly doesn't make it so. Even though Peter Pan and Tinkerbell can be fun to watch, like anything can be fun to watch, and any knot can be undone, untied, as the unconscious mind finds its own way to unlearn for you and see things in a different light, a warm, comfortable light that allows a feeling to change, to rearrange those thoughts and images, to change that feeling or make it fly away. Like the fortune teller said, allowing the mind to foresee that change in the future and to enjoy noticing that future changes do occur. And as you ponder that, let me count you up and into the waking world. 1, feeling wonderful now. 2, to be able to create the life for yourself that you love and adore. 3, free of all those old limiting beliefs. 4, now is the time to be alert and awake. And 5, to thrive and open your eyes. Different already, full of energy. This is a great start, but even when you understand this, there's still a trap that trips everyone up. Your brain doesn't just guess, it tends to guess the worst. So the next skill isn't just mind reading less, it's breaking the habit of assuming the worst in the first place. So watch my video, How to Stop Thinking the Worst, next. It'll help you retrain that negative bias so your brain stops scaring you with stories that aren't even real.